Standing up in McKinney, this is According to Callis, coming to you with episode 601 on the 12th of March, the year of our Lord 2024. It is a Texas Tuesday. Before we get into the program, let me remind you the best thing you can do to help me continue to grow the program, make a difference, be heard, and quite frankly, just spread the audience out to overcome the algorithms, is to like, share, and subscribe to the program. You can join me over at your social media of choice. I have a page and a group over at Facebook. I'm a pro over at Gab, and yeah, I drop in over at MeWe. There are so many other avenues, and I just have so much time in a day to devote to this. So every little bit you do helps me. And if you subscribe, then you don't have to look for notifications. It just shows up in your feed. If you look for notifications, great. Appreciate that. Tell your friends. Let's grow the audience. Let's grow the community. And today I'm going to spend some time talking about the platform and how it relates to Texas, the Republican Party platform, that is. So here we go on with the program. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, for those of you that think I'm going to go too far into the weeds, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to tell you right now that the vast majority of the program is going to deal with the platform for the Republican Party for the state of Texas. But I'm going to try and put it in some context and try and show you why it matters and what can be done with it and what are some shortcomings and what are the good things. And again, it's going to be a quick episode because I am running the platform committee for my SD. So here we go. The biannual, or biennial if you prefer, convention. That's the RPT, Republican Party of Texas convention. The statewide convention is coming up in May. It will be down in San Antonio. They do rotate the big cities that host the state convention, and the two previous ones were in Houston. Before that, it was Dallas and Fort Worth, respectively, and back to San Antonio. So I take that back. It wasn't San Antonio before Houston, then Houston twice. Now it's back to San Antonio. In either case, it is an attempt by the Republican Party of Texas to locate it in different places to, bring in different groups of people to make sure that people are heard and, quite frankly, to change up the scenery. I mean, after all, who would choose to go to Houston when you could go to San Antonio? Or for that matter, who would choose to go to San Antonio? Well, actually, I think that's probably everybody's destination. It's not like we can go to, any of the resort destinations. There's not nearly enough hotel rooms or a big enough location. All right, that being said. So, this week and next week, we're going to be working on the platform revisions from the Senate District 8. And as a member of that committee, the goal is, okay, and I want to put it this way. My preference is that we look to tweak the existing platform. I've referred to it before as just being overwhelmingly large and tediously detailed. I don't necessarily see that as being terrible, but I will tell you that it is very hard to wield that as a accountability tool when you have, I think the last count was 274 planks, but it's just, we're going to round it to 300. When you've got 300 talking points, yeah, most elected officials can barely handle 4. So, and I don't say that necessarily to insult the elected officials. They just got a lot of stuff going on, and they're in a different operational environment than we are. So when we come together and we work on the platform, the idea is we're trying to set up what is it that makes a Republican, what do Republicans believe, and what do we feel best exemplifies what it means to be a Republican. So the danger is when you have nearly 300 planks, or approximately 300 planks, there's going to be people that deviate, 10 or 20 or even 30%. I mean, how can they not? People are people, and they're going to have individual thoughts. They're going to have challenges. And we pride ourselves as conservatives, as Republicans, as liberty-minded individuals, that you're allowed and encouraged to have a difference of opinion and have different thoughts and think for yourself. And it's really difficult to then come along and say, well, you must agree on all these plank points. So the way I describe it is, this is a touchstone, a guide to what it is the expectations are. Obviously, people aren't going to fully agree on everything. We don't want that. You would have a bunch of little drones. I mean, clones. When people that can't think for themselves, we don't want that. That is not good for a representative republic. That is not good for a society that is going to build and expand and do well. If nobody thinks for themselves anymore, well, that's plenty of dystopian novels can describe what happens there. Okay, so the platform, you have your discussions, you talk about how do you revise it, how do you update it, are there things that are obsolete, are there things that are maybe not obsolete but just not relevant? Those are all things that need to be adjusted and approached. One of the major accomplishments, if you will, 2 years ago was getting the acknowledgement that, hey, there are a lot of things going on. Perhaps Texas needs to be a little bit more proactive in asserting their sovereignty. And that was inserted in multiple planks across the platform because, honestly, if the federal government doesn't want to do the job they were assigned by the states, if the federal government is actually going to work against the states, then the states are obligated to push it back, to stand in the gap. So I was really proud of that, outcome. And I realized that there are some people that are not, and that's okay. We're going to have conversations. We're going to act like adults, right? So that's the purpose of our committee. So we're going to hammer out some of the more egregious concerns that might be around this time around. And quite frankly, I'm really happy with the platform, other than the fact that it's so detailed and so large. So I'm not personally looking to revise really anything, but I have a committee for that. The committee will go through it. We'll look and see what needs to be done. And then we're going to present that at the SD8 convention, which is going to be in less than 2 weeks. Saturday the 23rd to be specific. Now, when that goes before the SD8 convention, you as a delegate have the opportunity to challenge, discuss, modify, edit, whatever the platform. Keeping in mind that whatever we do in SD8 has to go up to the statewide level. So we're going to put a pin in that at the moment. We'll revisit it. So everything that is done in the SD8 convention is in effect binding to SD8. It is the definitions come about by SD8. But when you go, and SD is Senate District, just in case that wasn't clear. And when you're done with that, then it gets sent up to the state. Now, it is my intention and my belief that I will be representing Senate District 8 down in San Antonio on behalf of we the people. And I will go down there and I will carry the platform as it came out of Senate District 8 convention. That doesn't mean we're going to get everything that we did or changed. And it doesn't mean that there won't be additional things that we hadn't even thought of brought up. Now, the idea is we're looking to come together and agree as a party, as a committee. These are the things that are most important. These are actually not even the most important. These are the things that we feel properly define what it means to be a Republican Party member, particularly in good standing. Now, when you get to the Texas level, and you're going to have a single representative from each Senate district, that person has a job to represent his Senate district or her Senate district well, and to advocate for the things that were important, and come up with a combined document that we all generally agree on. Now, what's interesting is, for the last, 10 years, we spend a lot of time debating the merits of the Convention of States. And I've talked about this numerous times on this show, and to many, many people I know. And my answer has been for probably at least the last 6 years. Personally, I don't support it. Personally, I think it's not a good idea. However, I was outvoted multiple times. Those people have carried the day. They're organized. In the event that they should accomplish their goal, which is to get a convention called by the states, I don't want them to see me as an enemy. I don't want them to see me as a problem or an impediment to trying to get the reforms accomplished that they're looking to get done. I don't agree with their method, but I do agree with what the outcome is. I do agree with what the needs are that they see. I agree with them. I have serious concern about it. But if they should pull it off, they need me on their team. They need you on their team. If you are a good conservative, you are a strong, principled Christian, if you are a liberty lover, however you want to describe yourself, they're going to need your help. We need to be willing to set aside the difference of the application, the concerns that we have about going that route, and be willing to accept the fact that it may happen without our consent. But if it should happen, we need to be willing to set that aside and join in the battle and fight the good fight. So for that reason, my intent is to not disturb that. However, what happens at the SD8 convention is out of my control. What happens at the SD8 convention is what binds me to an outcome. Now, just because I'm bound to a specific outcome doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't get changed in 16 of the 31 districts. It doesn't mean that there isn't a different outcome. And here's the thing, even at the state level, this will be an issue. It will be brought up. It will be debated. And it just seems to me personally, we spend an enormous amount of time arguing about this when there are other things that are more pressing, more directly relevant, that could and should be dealt with. I mean, we have issues on the border. We have economic issues that are being affected by bad policies out of D.C., where the state of Texas could do something. We have the aforementioned, border issues where Texas is kind of sort of stepping up to deal with it. We have all sorts of conflicting ideas and ideals of what it means to be a Texan coming from the feds versus what's coming out of the state. We have all sorts of concerns about how our ballots are done and how the voting is actually tabulated. Those are things that we could and should be dealing with. But unfortunately, it seems to me a lot of people seek to rehash this over and over and over again. I don't think they should ignore it. I don't think they should say it doesn't matter. I think they just need to prioritize what are the things that we can actually do. For instance, those of us who don't support killing babies in the womb, we've pretty much got everything we've ever asked for in the state of Texas. Now, could we be more absolutist or abolitionist, if you will? Yeah, we could. Do we really want to go down that path? I have some questions. And whether or not that's the best way to go about doing it. The end goal is to not kill unborn babies. But if you just force the hand and do different things, that creates another issue altogether. I've talked about the police state that would grow out of that. That's a huge concern in my mind. I think it's just enough to say for the state to say, no, it's not a good idea. In fact, it's illegal, and we're going to monitor doctors and make sure they're not doing this. Okay. I'm okay with stopping there. I know for a lot of people that's not enough. I get it. But as a practical matter, the society has changed in the 50 years since the Supreme Court manufactured a right that did not exist. And now that they've dialed it back, we have to undo 50 years worth of training in programming. That doesn't happen overnight. Even if we do, quote unquote, have a majority, there's a strong minority that still thinks this is a good idea. And there's a lot of other ancillary related issues that get clustered into this that, quite frankly, panic a lot of people. And I guess for some good reason, based upon some court opinions that have come out in the last year. So I would caution you, dear listener, think about the consequences of some of the things that you want to do. What it means to be a Republican should be a pretty simple self-explanatory thing. What it means to be a conservative might be a little bit more nuanced when compared to being a Republican, and certainly being a liberty lover is going to be even more nuanced than a conservative than a Republican. But I agree that ideally, in my perfect world, everybody should be a liberty-loving Christian conservative. That's my perfect world, but I don't live in a perfect world. I live in this pluralistic society that was put upon me courtesy of some really bad laws starting in 1965, and I have to deal with the hand I was dealt. I have to accept the world as it is and work to improve it. And as a liberty-loving Christian conservative, right, who is also a member of the Republican Party, I have to also fully acknowledge that this is a political party. It is not a church. There are going to be people with different values, different ways to worship, quite frankly, different gods. And I don't want them to be fighting with me the entire time when we're trying to focus on the nominal terrestrial goals that we have for the party. Now, maybe I'm looking at this in a way that upsets you. Maybe you think that, no, we must march forward, with a different banner. And I get it. Respectfully, yes, there's a place for that. I just don't think that this is going to work well. I don't think we're going to get what we're looking for. We keep moving the needle, and we've been very successful at that. The Overton window has shifted dramatically, and we need to keep working with that. You can't do that if you don't have people pushing the envelope, but if the people pushing the envelope spend more time alienating and ostracizing those that are not quite in the same space they are, we're being counterproductive. If you're going to do what's best for Texas, if you're going to do what's best for the Republican Party, you have to serve well. You have to reflect your community. You have to reflect the long-term goals, right? My underlying commitment is that I want to do what's best insofar as I understand it, but I also want to make sure that everybody else that's there is coming along with me. It does me no good. It does you no good to step out 20 paces and leave everybody else behind. If you're going to be a good leader and you're going to serve them well, you have to bring the majority, the vast majority of them along with you. Because even as the controlling dominant party that is the Republican Party in Texas, we're not even in complete agreement. If you doubt me, just look at Austin. We're constantly undermined by the very people that should be supporting us and working with us. We have to be able to work past that. We have to focus on what's best for Texas. The whole idea and the whole impetus behind the notion of Texas First, and look, I know there's different variations and there's different people that use that title. I don't own it. They don't own it. And even if they do, I don't care. Putting Texas first means just that. What's best for Texas needs to come as a priority when you're dealing with things in Texas. Sometimes that means that you're getting one up on the feds or getting one up on Oklahoma or Arkansas or Louisiana or New Mexico. That's not our concern. Those states are responsible for themselves. Now, I don't want to create a battle royale between us and Oklahoma. No matter how much I think we would beat Oklahoma, I see Oklahoma as being basically on our team and just separated by a line in the sand, or a river, if you will. But Oklahoma has a whole lot more in common with us than, say, New York, New Jersey, or even Colorado or Illinois. So you don't want to be antagonistic, but you also have to work towards what benefits Texas versus the feds. I would imagine the people in Oklahoma ought to be thinking the same way. What advantages Oklahoma versus the feds? The feds are supposed to work for us. We created the federal government at the state level. The state level delegated certain powers and authorities to the federal government, and yet the federal government has reversed that and basically is trying to run roughshod over every state. And that's what Texas First is really about. How do we push back at that? Well, we can't even accomplish a Texas First mindset if we're too busy fighting amongst ourselves in the party that is supposed to be running the state. Again, We got to focus on all the things that we do agree upon and fight the good fight on those. And we can sort out the things that we vary slightly on and the things that are, let's say, minor impediments to total cohesion behind closed doors. Fight the good fight. Stand up for Texas. Putting Texas first is the most important goal. That's what I'm going to be doing as a member of the State Platform Committee. I hope you'll join me down there in May. I look forward to coming back and seeing you all again. And this has been According to Callus. And as always, I will see you on the other side.